The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Welcome in, episode number 31. Cross Flags on the air. We have got a list coming up a little bit later on. Yeah, we actually still use paper in this day and age of digital. Did you know that? We're going to be talking about a list of rookies coming in next year. We'll tell you which particular series and exactly why we're talking about them already. First things first, though, this past weekend we had NASCAR in action. We also had Formula One back in action after about a month off, and they decided to play around in Austin, Texas. We're just outside of it, I guess. Mm-hmm. They went to Circuit of the Americas. Beautiful little track over there. We haven't been there personally, but let's face it, we've seen it on television. We like it. It's a nice track. Problem is that the FIA, and the FIA is the governing body, the sanctioning body, if you will, over Formula One. And they've got this thing, and I got to admit, I kind of agree with them when it comes to this, about fans hitting the track early. They've actually started fining tracks because some way, somehow, fans are finding their way out there because they want to be first. Okay, they want to get up there as close as they can to where they're doing the ceremonies and handing out the trophies and spraying the champagne and all that. Okay, I kind of get that. But the problem is that they're jumping out of their seats early. In this case, they climbed over a fence and then dug under a fence. I'm not sure how much more Circuit of the Americas could have done to have avoided that situation. But as it stands, they got fined €500,000, which is about $600,000 US.
Well, those pesky Ferrari fans, because you know that's who it had to be because they swept 1-2.
Yeah, that was a good run for them, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, what else could you have done if you climb over a fence and dug under a fence?
I don't see how much more they could have done, truth be told. That, you know,
I don't know.
People are going to do what they've got in mind to do. I've said it before, I'll say it again. A person is smart. A group of people, it's only as smart as the dumbest person in it. Bingo. And once one person does something stupid, some other people go, I guess we could do that too. And they follow suit.
Yep.
And the problem is that this hits me kind of, if you remember reading about 1979, in early December in Cincinnati, Ohio, a general admission concert with The Who, again in Cincinnati, Ohio. And when they opened up the gates, everybody just started rushing as fast as they could because this was in Riverfront Stadium. It's a lot of people. They were all rushing to get to the front of the stage, and it ended up being a stampede. Some people, of course, tripped. They got run over. They got killed. That's kind of what this hits me like because, granted, they're on a cool-down lap at this point in time, but you're still talking about a Formula One race car going at what, 60, 70 miles an hour in some cases?
At least, yeah. At least.
Sorry, that's going to do some damage if it doesn't kill you. You're taking your life into your own hands.
It's going to leave a mark.
Sorry, I don't need to be that close to the stage just to see the trophy ceremony.
No.
Not looking forward to it, but yeah, they got fined. Fans, stay in your seats until every car is on pit road, would you? That's how we solve that problem. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so between Formula One at Circuit of the Americas and NASCAR made their way all the way out to Las Vegas. This was one of the few times this year that we have had a straight heads-up comparison of NASCAR versus Formula One on broadcast television. Because here in the United States, ESPN, which has the rights to Formula One coverage, usually does run it on ESPN or ESPN2 because sometimes it's in the middle of the night. Think Japan, China, Singapore. Sometimes it's very early in the morning, most of the European races, 8, 9 o'clock here in the United States of America, depending on exactly what time zone you're in. But when they come to Canada, when they went to Miami, Circuit of the Americas, they put those on ABC, network television, which, granted, a whole lot of people don't necessarily get it over the air, but you still can get it over the air. And my Lord, suddenly they found the playoffs on NBC. And the two races started about 30 minutes apart. So what was the difference between the two? Now remember, this is Sunday afternoon, which also means that the NFL is in action on Fox and CBS. They're the big ratings getters. We've talked about that many, many times, not only here on Crossed Flags, but on the big show, CRN, on Saturday mornings, and the fact that the ratings monster here in the United States when it comes to sports is the National Football League. They far and away grab the most viewers. But between Formula One and NASCAR, who do you think got more viewers? Take a wild guess.
Probably, I've seen it, but if I was looking at it blind, Cup probably got it.
Cup did indeed, and Cup continues to lead it. We've said this before, and I'll say it again right here, right now, for those of you who are first-time watchers and or listeners. NASCAR is the king of motorsports here in the United States of America. As a general rule, they'll get somewhere between 3 and 4 million people on any average weekend. Again, not necessarily an average weekend because you have the NFL playing on both CBS and Fox. 2.3 million viewers for the people watching the Cup Series race in Vegas, watching the Formula One race at Circuit of the Americas, 1.3 million.
That's a little tighter than I thought it would be, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's a very respectable number for F1.
It is. That's a little bit higher than their general average. They generally average about 1 million viewers or so, but you get them on ABC, which is, again, available literally everywhere, whereas ESPN, ESPN2, not necessarily available in every single household. So, yeah, you generally will see the ratings numbers a little bit higher, tick up a little bit when it goes to ABC. Doesn't match Miami.
No.
Miami got close to 2 million viewers earlier on this year, but that same weekend, the Cup Series race, which, if I remember right, that weekend, that was on cable too.
Yeah. Yep.
Cup Series race still beat Formula One when it came to the overall ratings. So we keep an eye on it. You know, I like to compare the apples to apples bit. Mm-hmm. You know, ABC, NBC versus ABC versus USA or ABC versus Fox Sports 1. Mm-hmm. So there we go. We continue to prove Cup Series continues to rule. Again, I agree, though. A little bit closer than I would have thought. A little bit closer than I would have thought.
Yep.
All right, we're going to show you a paint scheme. And this may be a throwback for a whole lot of you, and it is. This is not us remembering a paint scheme from, 15, 20 years ago? Mm-hmm. Nope. This is Dale Jr. remembering a paint scheme from 15, 20 years ago and bringing it back where he's going to run it. Where is this next year? Oh,
that is
Florence Motor Speedway.
Going to run in Florence.
Nice.
At the end of November.
Oh, okay. So that's just a month away.
November 23rd at the South Carolina 400.
So this right here is a late model.
Yep.
Junior Motorsports has a late model program. It's where Josh Berry came from before he flipped over and became a rookie for Stewart Haas Racing. This year is 1 year with Stewart Haas Racing.
Yeah.
This is a cool deal that he was able to go and get Budweiser to come back as a sponsor, number one, and agree to do this paint scheme, number two. And if they build a die-cast out of this, they better build a lot.
No, there's going to be die-cast built out of it, and you are looking at probably what will set the all-time record for die-cast being made.
Yeah. Wow. And it's a sharp-looking car. I mean, it really does emulate the number 8 Bud DEI car. Congratulations. Very, very well done by Dale Jr. and the guys at Junior Motorsports on coming up with that look. It's going to be a lot of fun. Try to take a guess as to how many might actually be built for sale.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Because it really doesn't matter how many they build. There's going to be people that'll still want it even when it gets sold out.
If there's not over 10,000 built, I'll be surprised.
And that's a fairly rare number. We don't usually see 10,000 in a die-cast run of.
You normally see anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000.
Yeah. Some of the ones that when I first started collecting, and that goes back 25 years now, some of the big ones you would see, they would get a run of about 5,000, 5,500. That was a big number back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me if this hits close to 10K.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So 2025. And I want to bring this up because there was a few years ago a person who got in touch with us when we were on a different radio station group and under a different name. And it was at a time when really it seemed like all the Cup Series drivers were just getting older and older and older, and there wasn't anybody young coming in, right? This right here is William Sawalich. He's one of the young drivers that's set to come into NASCAR here in the very near future. We'll talk about that a little bit more. We've talked about him on a part-time basis. We'll get back to it. So the question basically was, when are we going to see an infusion of young blood? Then all of a sudden we started seeing them. We started seeing the Chase Elliott's. We started seeing the Kyle Larsons. We started seeing Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez and all these drivers that were either coming up through different series or coming up through the ranks, and the very young drivers, right? But everybody seems to concentrate on the Cup Series when it comes to that. William Sawalich, just yesterday, it was announced that he signed full-time to drive for Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series next year. Full-time, joining that team. I'll let you kind of give a little bit of detail as to what William Sawalich's resume so far has been.
Well, outside of an extremely large checkbook, he's been respectable in ARCA East. That's a key word, ARCA East.
Yeah, not even the main ARCA series.
He's dabbled in the main ARCA series and the national series, mainly on short tracks. It's been respectable. He's had only a handful of starts in trucks. You know, if, you know, some of those pesky PA announcers thinking that a 17-year-old can go qualify on the pole in truck series at Talladega, which is incorrect, which that was apparently a one-hit wonder, just out of luck.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been respectable. Short track, good little short track racer. But what warrants a jump from ARCA East to Xfinity outside of Grandpa's checkbook?
Yeah. Heard an interview with him, and this was yesterday. And in the interview, he admitted that he's going to get a chance to drive next weekend at Homestead, Miami. It's a 1.5 mile oval track. He admitted he's never raced on an oval track on a 1.5 mile yet. Think about that for a second. Yes, he's raced at Talladega. Talladega and Homestead, Miami don't have a whole heck of a lot in common.
No.
So he is about to get his first taste of what an Xfinity Series race at a 1.5 mile track is going to be like, and it's going to be at Homestead, Miami, and that's really about the best, the most amount of preparation he's going to get for going full time in the Xfinity Series next year.
Yep.
But I'll say this: William Sawalich is a talented young driver, and he's joining a list of a pretty good number of rookies coming in next year. So I'm going to go over this with Matt. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7
No,
right there.
I'm counting right here, talent versus checkbook.
Oh, okay. So
I'm going bottom up. Checkbook, pure talent,
Sure.
checkbook. And that's a 50-50.
Okay. I'm going to go talent.
Clear checkbook.
Okay. So we're about even right there.
Yeah.
We're about as even as you can get when it comes to a 7-driver field. Who are we talking about here? Well, we're going to take them in alphabetical order. William Sawalich, as we said, he's going to drive the Joe Gibbs Racing number 18 full-time next year after running kind of part-time, just getting spot starts basically. From here, it's alphabetical order. Daniel Dye. Daniel Dye has been driving the number 43 in the Truck Series for the past,
2 years.
2 years? I was going to say 2, maybe
years.
3.
2 years.
He's joining Kaulig Racing. He's going to take over the number 10 in the Xfinity Series next year after having run part-time for them this year.
Oy vey.
I'm not, no disrespect to the folks over at Kaulig Racing, because they've done pretty well for themselves. But I'm trying to figure out what it is that they've seen in Daniel Dye that says that he's good enough to be in that car. Other than
Outside of saying, Matt Cawley, Chris, Ty, here's a check. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So that's 2 in the check mark. That's
You've
Sawalich and Daniel Dye.
You've won one ARCA race at Berlin for GMS. One.
From there, we'll go to the first guy who did get it on talent. This guy burning things up in the Craftsman Truck Series. Christian Eckes. Christian Eckes signed a deal. He's going to drive for the aforementioned Kaulig Racing. He's going to take over the 16 car AJ Allmendinger, who's moving back up to the Cup Series. Let's not get started on that situation. So he'll take over that car. So they're going to have 2 full-time entries for Kaulig Racing in the Xfinity Series next year, driven by Daniel Dye and Christian Eckes. I'd be shocked if Christian Eckes doesn't take Daniel Dye to school.
I would be shocked if Christian Eckes is not the clubhouse leader for Kaulig, because Josh Williams is coming back next year for the 11. They'll have the 3 cars.
And don't get me wrong, I like the chutzpah of Josh Williams. He was the guy that got black flagged and was told to take his car to the garage, park it because of something that he did on the track. I can't even remember what it was. Last year in 2023. And what did he do? Instead of taking it to the garage under caution, he stopped right dead on the start-finish line down on the apron, got out of the car, walked across the infield, and jumped over the fence, and was promptly sent to the Xfinity Series hauler, where he had to sit for 2 hours and wait for the race to end and all the post-race stuff to get done before they came and talked to him. And, I get it. I like the chutzpah. I like what you did there. But at the same time, what have you done on the track there, Josh? Come on.
He's had a lot of bad luck this year.
I'll agree to that. But at the same time, we can look at somebody who's currently right now in the Cup Series playoffs as stumbling and bumbling their way into it. And they're still stumbling and bumbling, but they're still alive. I didn't see that out of Josh Williams. No, I'm talking about Denny Hamlin, by the way. Mm-hmm. I didn't see that out of Josh Williams this year. Christian Eckes, he's not going to stand for it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's going to be stumbling next year.
Excuse me.
I tend to agree with him. I think of the 3 Xfinity Series cars that Kaulig is going to field next year, that's going to be the class of the field.
For sure.
Not only is he a contender for Rookie of the Year, Sunoco Rookie of the Year, I think we got a logo about that, don't we there, Kerry? I think he actually could, given things right, and if he keeps his head about him, he could actually be a contender for the championship in the Xfinity Series next year. From there, we're going to go to Junior Motorsports. Sam Mayer's moving. He's going over to what's going to be the Haas factory operation next year. So that left the 1 car open, and they're filling it with Carson Kvapil. If the name sounds familiar, Travis Kvapil, former NASCAR racer from some time back. This is his son. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I suddenly had a thought that it might be his nephew, but yeah,
no, it's his son.
You believe this is a check?
Now that I think back about it, it's probably more 80-20 talent versus check.
Okay.
Because Bass Pro Shops is sponsoring him in a massive chunk of races next year.
That doesn't hurt. Not at all.
It's more 80-20.
Okay. He's got talent, though. But in comparison to the rest of these guys, does he get washed away? Or is the car good enough to overcome that somewhat?
Car's good enough to overcome it. I mean, because in the handful of starts he's had this year in Xfinity, and the one that I was keen on watching was Talladega, because he's never been on a super speedway. He held his ground.
Yeah. And that's saying something. That's saying something.
And barring being outside of that big wreck going into turn 1, he held his ground in a very respectable manner.
Yeah. I mean, there's an intimidation factor when it comes to Talladega or Daytona, because you're going to be stuck in a crowd. And I have had the opportunity to do the Talladega driving experience with him. And no, there weren't, 35, 40 other cars on the track at the time. But as you're going around and you get to the point where you realize that you're at the speed you're going to be at, and for me, it was about 150. So, yeah, I'm doing 30 to 40 miles per hour less than what the Xfinity Series guys are. I get this. But you have a moment, once you get that car to that point, you have a moment where you can actually kind of look around and start to gauge what you're doing. And you think, okay, if this was me in an Xfinity Series car and I'm doing the limit of what I can get this car to do, that means I'm in a crowd of at least 30 other cars. And you start to picture them in front of you, behind you, to the left of you, to the right of you, and you start to think about that situation. And suddenly, that's where the excitement factor comes in. Because when you're by yourself, Talladega can be intimidating enough because you come off a pit road and you look at what looks to be a wall of turn 1 and 2. Because that 33-degree banking becomes kind of ominous, staring you in the windshield. Let's face it. And then again, like I said, once you get used to that part of it, and then you suddenly start to try and picture having yourself in the middle of a 30-car field in a pack of 30 plus, and they're all around you, yeah, that becomes intimidating. So don't discount the fact that he held his own at Talladega. There is something to be said for that. Absolutely. Nick Sanchez.
Check.
Nick Sanchez is a kid who has held his own pretty good in the Truck Series. Okay. Good enough to warrant the promotion. I think it was coming. I don't think I was expecting it to come this time. He is going to move up and replace Parker Kligerman. Parker Kligerman's been driving the number 48 for Big Machine Racing, and for whatever particular purpose, he's decided he's done full-time racing at the end of this year, so he's going to step out of the car. They needed somebody to take it over. They brought Nick Sanchez up.
Check.
Okay.
Sorry. Check. Yes, he's won a couple of races, but he hasn't done enough, in my opinion, because he lets this get in his own way most of the time. Acting like a little girl on pit road about crazy things.
We can say that about at least one Cup Series driver, though.
No, true. True.
Looking at you, Bubba Wallace.
True.
Get out of your head, man. Just go drive. Make a mistake, get over it. Put it past you. That's the way to do it. Nick Sanchez, much the same way. All right, these two guys I want to kind of separate out and go outside of the alphabetical order bit. And I'm going to start right here. Taylor Gray.
Check.
Taylor Gray's coming up. He's going to take over the number 54 car for Joe Gibbs Racing next year after running part-time for this team in 2024. And he's been running in the Truck Series the past couple of years. And he has, sorry, Taylor, not done that much. Yeah, you've made the playoffs. Congratulations. But past that, what have you done?
Grandpa Johnny's check is what got him that. I'm sorry, but Grandpa Johnny Gray's check got him that. There's no other way to say it. Because, yes, he's had respectable finishes in Xfinity car when he's filled in and drove. He made the playoffs in the trucks, yes. But what have you done with it? When you've been in position to win races and Jeff Hensley, your crew chief, puts you there and you can't close it out? See Ty Dillon. I'm sorry, but see Ty Dillon.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Taylor is one of those guys. Tanner was the one that did NHRA, correct?
Tanner.
That's
yes.
what I was trying to remember that just to make sure. Tanner Gray he came up through the short track, late model racing ranks, decided to kind of follow the family over into some drag racing. And he actually performed pretty well there before he said, you know what, my real love is back in stock cars. So he started to work his way back through that situation.
The youngest pro stock champion in history.
Yeah. And Taylor was right there with him. And to me, this is another one of those situations where you get a brother combination within the NASCAR ranks, and one brother is going to overshadow the other. Okay, witness Darrell Waltrip versus Michael Waltrip. I get it. Michael Waltrip won probably the most high-profile race in recent memory, the Daytona 500, where Dale Earnhardt unfortunately lost his life. But when you compare Darrell Waltrip's resume to Michael Waltrip's resume, Darrell shines better. No disrespect to our own Alabama gang, but when you look at the resumes of Bobby Allison versus Donnie Allison, which one comes out better? One is much further ahead than the other.
Bobby.
Okay. when you look at the current run of NASCAR drivers, one guy who just retired recently and another one, his brother, currently still running. When you look at the resumes of Kyle Busch versus Kurt Busch, things close down a little bit more because Kyle's a two-time champion, Kurt's a single-time champion. But when you look at the entirety of the resume, who shines more? It's younger brother, Kyle. Sorry, Kurt. When I look at these Gray brothers right now, I'm not seeing one specifically more than the other. Neither one of them is standing out hardly at all.
Nope.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem for the both of them because somebody needs to step it up here. Taylor, this is probably the best vehicle you're ever going to get. Now you have the pressure to prove it. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do with it? Mm-hmm. And when you're taking on William Sawalich, Nick Sanchez, Carson Kvapil, Christian Eckes, Daniel Dye, that's a big uphill climb. That's like looking at the peak of Mount Everest from the bottom of Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, we forgot one guy. How about Connor Zilisch?
Your 2025 Rookie of the Year.
He just called it. Connor Zilisch going to Junior Motorsports. He will join with Carson Kvapil in that operation. He'll drive the number 88 car full-time in 2025. He's run part-time for them this year. And, that's right. He's the first driver in NASCAR history to, in his very first race at Watkins Glen, claim the pole and the win.
In walk-off fashion.
Wasn't even really a race. He rolled away from everybody.
When at one point during the race, you are 6.5 seconds up on Shane Van Gisbergen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Eyebrows open up and raise up.
This has the potential to be one of the most talented rookie classes that we have maybe ever seen in the Xfinity series, going all the way back to its beginnings as the Busch series way back, 40 years ago now. If some of these guys that are coming in really more as checkbooks than they are based upon their talent, if they can live up to it. Again, Taylor Gray's driving for Joe Gibbs. Carson Kvapil's driving for Junior Motorsports. Kaulig Racing is no slouch of a team. So it's not like any of these. And what we've seen with Parker Kligerman at Big Machine Racing gives me hope that something really good could come out of that single car operation.
It could.
Okay. There isn't a bad team on this list. Kaulig, Joe Gibbs, Big Machine Racing, and Junior Motorsports. Those four are represented, and they bring in 7 talented, if rough around the edges, kids. Again, this could be one of the most talented rookie classes if they live up to their potential.
The race for Rookie of the Year will be between Eckes and Zilisch.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm trying to think of a dark horse here, but the truth of the matter is I'm having a hard time. The basic inexperience of William Sawalich and Daniel Dye and
dark horse, Kvapil.
Yeah, I would probably have to go there. Because I say this because I don't know whether it's Parker Kligerman or the car, but I've seen enough of Parker Kligerman to think that the improvement that we've seen and them being so close to being able to claim a win this year maybe does have a little bit more to do with Parker Kligerman being behind the wheel than it does the car. Car has to be good, I get it.
Yeah.
But then you got to have a really, really good driver to be able to take it to the finish. So that's why I got a big problem looking at Nick Sanchez as a dark horse candidate for Rookie of the Year. The better car, if you just put the cars out there and forget about who's driving them, the better car is going to be the one car that Carson Kvapil's getting into, not the 48 car that Nick Sanchez will end up getting into.
I mean, because as it sits right now with Gibbs, currently you got Brandon Jones, Taylor Gray, Sawalich.
Yep.
They've had 4 cars this year.
Yeah. But they've run 2 of them as star cars. So are they going to continue to run a star car this year? Or are they going to go 4 full-time drivers next year?
One question mark is, what is Chandler Smith doing?
Yeah. And he is a title contender. Don't forget, still in line for maybe getting this year's championship. Has not signed for next year.
If he doesn't come back to Gibbs and they've signed somebody else, you want to talk about a fall off in a roster?
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's a fall off in a roster.
I would agree. Yeah. I don't have a problem with saying that. Taylor Gray and William Sawalich is half a year full-time lineup. I don't know.
But Junior Motorsports, they're going to have a fall off, but it's not going to be a tanking fall off. It's going to be a that way it's slight. You still got Zilich in play.
Yeah.
He's going to keep it from going tanking because he's going to be consistent.
And I would say this as well in that Sam Mayer had a learning curve too. When he got full-time with them, he had to make the adjustment. Is it a huge adjustment? No. But anytime you have to make an adjustment to go from late models up into the Xfinity series, it takes a little bit of time to adjust to the car. And it took Sam Mayer a little bit to adjust to it. It'll take Carson Kvapil a little bit to adjust to this car. Once he does, then I think he could probably do some really, really good stuff with it. The question becomes, how fast can he make that adjustment? And it's going to have to be with these other drivers in here, most notably Connor Zilich and Christian Eckes. He's going to have to adjust that fast. And I'm not sure he can.
I'm not either.
I'm keeping a good thought for you. I really am. I'm keeping a good thought for you, Carson. But you're going to have to prove it. Good luck. That's going to be an interesting rookie class, though, next year.
Yep.
7 drivers, probably some of the most talented guys. And that means very soon we'll do a preview just like this of the Cup Series because there's changes coming all around when it comes to the Cup Series. But we still got a championship to hoist. Don't worry. We'll be talking about that as well. We get to that particular point. They're going to be going, as we noted, from Las Vegas to Homestead, Miami. I don't know as I really got a favorite for there.
You gotta go, but to me, you gotta go with the two that is the best at running highline races, and that's Reddick and Larson. You gotta say it's going to be between one of those two.
Yeah, and Reddick could really use the win. Larson, he's been steady. Let's face it, that guy. If you want to use the golf analogy of it, he's stepping up to the tee box. He's hitting it straight down the fairway and doing it nice and safe. He can easily point his way into the finals. Tyler Reddick, he might need a win. He might just need a win. And then we go to Martinsville.
Yep.
We'll talk about that next week right here on the next edition of Crossed Flags. Thank you for joining us. Hope you join us this Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time for the big show, the Championship Racing Network, which you can see on CRN Live right here on YouTube. Hope you join us then. Until then, we'll talk to you next week right here on Crossed Flags and, of course, Saturday on CRN. See you.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.